Good morning, Magic. I'm Gavin Verhey from Wizards of the Coast, and in my nearly 9 years working on Magic, I've got to make some pretty cool cards, and many of them legends. So I thought today, how about I go inside 3 of them and tell you how they came to be. All right, number 1. So I was the lead designer for Battle Bond, and one of the things going on with that set was the world was inspired by gaming and esports and sports tropes. So I went around looking for some good tropes to go into the set. One of the game genres I wanted to hit was the MOBA game genre. These are games where you have heroes that are kind of running down lanes, and then often there are little monsters coming towards you that you're trying to kill off, and usually one big monster in the middle. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we had a creature that was that big monster in the middle? If you killed it, your whole team would get a bonus. And so I came up for the initial idea of Grothama, all devouring. But it was quite a bit different than what you see here. The original version was actually a card that entered the battlefield under your opponent's control, sleeper agent style. You gave it to them and then had to attack every single turn. And when you killed it, you got a bonus for doing so. The original bonus was gaining 2 life, drawing 2 cards, making 2 tokens, and putting 2 +1/+1 counters on all of your creatures. There was kind of a twosiness theme running throughout Battle Bond. This version, while it read really cool, was really just a combo with removal spells. You would wait to cast it until you could just kill it immediately. Boring. And then we tried a version at a more normal size and mana cost, where you got it and it had to attack or block every turn if able. And this was okay, but still not all that inspiring. I will say my favorite thing about it though, is it went back on top of your library after it died. That represented the respawn timer. It's the next version that starts to get a lot closer. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, Grothama must fight that creature. This could lock people out from playing creatures, but if you played your cards right and teamed up your creatures, they could take down this huge beast. Now this version started working out pretty well, but there are still a few problems. The first is, as I mentioned before, it could lock your opponents out from playing their creatures, but the second is you didn't always want your creatures to fight Grothama. Sometimes you wanted to build up an army and then deal with it later. So it's from there that we came up with attacking to fight Grothama, which even feels flavorful. You're sending your creatures into the fray and they attack Grothama kind of instead of your opponent. This card turned out pretty weird, and I think that's why I like it so much. There's really not that much else out there like this, and whenever it comes down, you're going to have a memorable game. I've also seen some really cool commander decks using this card. Big shout out to Benny Smith for the work he's done playing that one. All right, time for card number 2. I was leading Commander 2018, and me and the team had a cool idea. What if every deck had a bonus legend? In addition to the 3 legends that you normally get as your front-facing legends, what if there was 1 extra legend that could not command the deck but was just cool on its own? When we decided we wanted to do this, we already had 2 of them in decks anyways. We had Xantcha and Erixothes ready to go. So I went back to the white-blue-black deck and came up with Yuriko as a sweet ninja card, but the red-blue deck still needed something. So I went to Kelly Diggs and asked him what a good legend to use here would be. The name he gave me? Varchild. This was a really unusual one to design, and that's why it was so fun. You had both Varchild, who's a known throwback character, and then probably the card they are best known for, Varchild's War Riders. So even though it's a creative character, I started by knowing I would want to use survivor tokens in some way and built that right into the card. There were really only 2 big changes from the original version. The first is the original gave all of your opponents a survivor every single turn. The second is that when a survivor died, Varchild got a +1/+1 counter. What we found with this version though is it put the incentives in the wrong place. Everyone else would get a survivor and then not want to do anything with it because it would grow Varchild. This version gives one player a lot of survivors and makes them actively want to attack and try and get rid of them so you won't get them when Varchild goes away. I love it when we make throwbacks or nods to our history like this. It's awesome that you can use Varchild and Varchild's War Riders together and they'll synergize despite being printed so many years apart. And if you like fun throwbacks like this, I can't wait until you see what Commander Legends has in store. Now my third card is kind of a wonky choice, and many of you might not even know this card exists, but it's called Atlantis Envoy. One of the things I wanted to do with the Mystery Booster playtest cards were create some things that I'm asked for every now and then. It both gives the people who want them the version of them, and also if they're really popular, tells us maybe we should try this in a normal set. And one of those requests I get every now and then is a Homerid commander. You know who you are. So I made up this goofball, who pumps up your seafaring creatures, including Nautilids, which don't exist yet, but trust me, they're terrifying. I think one of the most interesting things about this card though is the name. This is a place I was able to slip in some really fun references, and Atlantis is one of those. First of all, fun fact, and certain Tolarian professors out there might be interested in this. Say Atlantis a few times. Atlantis, Atlantis, Atlantis. Does that sound like anything in particular? What about Atlantis? Yes, indeed. Canonically, some merchants heard Atlantis as Atlantis, and that's how it stuck. So Lord of Atlantis actually canonically is part of the Dominarian world. And yeah, it's a bit of a stretch, okay, but there you go. Second of all, the story behind this place is wild. So thousands of years ago, the merfolk and the Homerids were locked in a battle. So Empress Galena, leader of the Vidalian merfolk, decided the best course of action to get away from the Homerids would be to go to the far away Atlantis. So they got a magic portal created and they went through, and the good news is they were in Atlantis. The unexpected news is they were somehow 3,000 years in the future. Early magic story is wild. Despite being a little surprised about, being 3,000 years in the future, they crushed the local colony that was there and created New Vidalia. Now here's a question to think about. If they were able to defeat a civilization 3,000 years in the future with all the weapons they had, but they couldn't kill off the Homerids, just how strong were those Homerids? Anyway, back to the card. This is an Atlantis Envoy because it's the Homerids' political representative to Atlantis to work out a deal between the merfolk and the Homerids. And to be completely clear, I made all that up and it's not canonical at all, except for Mystery Booster Story World, which I guess I control. So for Lorelei, and also probably the one other person out there who has a COD commander deck, that's a bit of the history behind the card. Also, I named it COD after the fish. So there you go, 3 legends. Let me know in the comments below if you like this video, and maybe I'll do another after Commander Legends. I'll talk with you all again on Wednesday. And in the meantime, may you not accidentally time travel 3,000 years in the future. Seriously. You got this. When was the last time you sat down at a commander table and there were no green decks? It's a very uncommon occurrence. And green decks cast tons of spells. With their accelerated mana, it's easy to cast a lot of things in one turn. If a card like Phyrexian Arena is good enough for your deck, Insight almost definitely is. There are plenty of commander tables where Insight will even be better than Rhystic Study. Especially if you're playing with me, because I always pay the 1. And that brings us to our 4th card,